Thanks, Karen. Thanks, everyone, for attending. You ought to see my heart pounding. It's just like pounding out of my blouse. Um, thank you. It's really nice to be here. Reading that forward to the fourth edition really touched me. I hadn't read that before. I think the technology now in Alcoholics Anonymous has introduced me to 134 people on this Hollywood Squares. I mean, how amazing is it? My whole sobriety changed because of technology. I mean, who'd ever think modem to modem? It's written way back in 1935, and here we are. Just to identify, I'm nervous. I don't know why I get nervous. It's so stupid. My name's Naomi. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date's the 30th of October, 1998. Thanks to all the Great Facts family for coming along, and everybody else. If you are new, please look for the similarities, but don't ignore the differences in my story. I don't have a huge story of jails and drink driving or DUIs, whatever you want to call them. But my story is my story, and it happened to me. And I come from an alcoholic background, and that doesn't make me an alcoholic. My dad served in the Second World War, and I was thinking about him before when I was trying to, I don't know about you guys, but I always practice what I'm going to say, and then it just goes out the window because God wasn't running it when I was doing that an hour ago. I'm hoping he is with me right now on my shoulder. And I was thinking about my dad, of how lonely it was, coming back from the Second World War. He was a rat to brook. I don't know whether you guys know about that. But when he got back here to Australia, there was no such thing as, help. It was called shell shock. And there was no, he was lonely. He was sad. He was an alcoholic. And he married my mum, and they had 4 kids. And out of the 4 kids, I think 2 of us are in Alcoholics Anonymous, and one should be, and one has sadly passed away, who I believe had this disease also. But growing up in this house, post-war, there wasn't a lot of money, wasn't a lot of food, and supermarkets shut, 5 o'clock, and mind you, it was probably the roads were nicer and the people were nicer, but there wasn't a lot of money. And my mum and dad come from South Australia, and then they moved over to here, Victoria, after the war for work. My dad was a sales rep, so there wasn't a lot of money coming in. But I grew up in this home, and I was really ashamed of it. When I got my head, like, I don't remember obviously 1 to 3 or anything like that. But once I remembered growing up in this home, I felt ashamed, because it was like in a suburb here in Melbourne that's really now really popular and very expensive. But back then, it was a weatherboard home with 3 bedrooms and 6 people living in it. And all my friends from my primary school were from a really elite area called Deep Dean, and they all lived in bricks and mortar homes. And they looked like they were from a better home. They probably weren't. That was just me way back then in primary school. I always had the bedevilments, of growing up, always had that fear. I didn't know the word fear. I didn't know the word of self-pity. I didn't know those words until I got into Alcoholics Anonymous. I just lived in a bubble of fear. I don't remember being happy. And I don't remember coming home, skipping from home from school, walking into a happy environment. Probably was okay, but I think that was my internal fear, I was scared to walk in the door because I didn't know what was going to be there. I didn't know whether there was going to be fighting or sadness. But anyway, that doesn't make me an alcoholic. And whatever it is, 26 years later, I am so grateful that I experienced all that, because that's what's made me into the person I am today. I went to a Catholic primary school and a Catholic secondary school, and I remember it was a convent. Back in those days too, no offense to anyone, but it was really the nuns were nasty. The nuns were nasty, and very strict. And then I'd go home from school, and with no money, and it was a very expensive school. My mum went out to do a couple of jobs to send me there. And I didn't appreciate that at the time. I appreciate it now, because I had beautiful sports fields and I love sport. But I was growing, and I really, really struggled academically at school, because I'm not up there for thinking, mate. I'm a visual person. I'm not an academic. Thank God AA isn't academic. Thank God Alcoholics Anonymous is spiritual, because I would have flunked. I struggled at school, but I just continued on like I did with my whole life. At 16, we had a school dance, and I took a boy called John Loren, who had blonde hair, surfy looking guy, really nice. He was the one at the dance floor. Anyway, my dad worked for Kaiser, I said, which is a lingerie thing. So my mum, I wore a nightie to my first dance. Mum put really nice buttons on the back, and I had a white stool, and my cousin did my hair, and I looked beautiful, blah, blah. But he took a bottle of ouzo to this girl's place, and everybody else was drinking fruit punch. And I thought I had no idea. Look, when I was about 16, I probably looked at 10, because when I was 18, I looked 12. Anyway, we went to this pre dance thing, and I drank a bottle of ouzo. That was my first experience of drinking, like solid drinking. I mean, I used to drink the froth of dad's beers. Whether you call that drinking, I'm not quite sure. But my first experience, and that was my first blackout, was a bottle of ouzo. Why ouzo? I have a goddamn no idea. I don't think I've touched it since, but I blacked out that night, and I don't remember my first experience of a dance. I don't know whether John Loren kissed me at the front door. I don't know where I was. I don't know how I got home. But that was my first experience of drinking. And I didn't pick up another drink until about the age of 18. I didn't even think to get a false ID. That wasn't in my structure of my brain. And we used to go to a dance. All my friends used to go to the pub, and I just go to the dance. And I used to have to sneak out, and my dad was really strict. Anyway, I picked up, once I turned 18, I was off. The pubs were there. It was the best. I used to just function my whole life around alcoholic drinking. I actually thought everyone drank like me. I would be the first to arrive and the last to leave. I'd go to parties, with booze in my bag, and I wouldn't share it. I was really selfish with it, and I'd drink everybody else's. And parties back in the 70s were, because I'm a 70s kid, put all the booze in the bathtub and go out into the lounge room, and or you have the party was always by the fridge, with the boys. Always hung around the boys. Always attracted the wrong boys. Always. Sadly, I met some really nice, good, decent human beings along the way that asked me out, and I just said, they don't drink enough, I'm not there. If I smelt it, I was there. If I felt it, I was there. I used to organise people so I could get there. I had the drink before the drink, and I never drank socially. I have no idea what a glass of wine is. No idea. I drank out of flagons. I don't know whether you guys know those, but they're dirty big bottles, and they're heavy. And one night I fell into a fire pit because it was so heavy and I was so drunk. And that's not the first time I had an altercation with the fire pit. And I drank out of cask wine, which I think you call carton or whatever. It was 4 litres. I was an absolutely horrific drink driver. And I have no idea to this day how my higher power got me from point A to point B. I think he loves me, because for once in my life, I never got picked up for drink driving. I got from point A to point B on a major road here in Melbourne, at the ripe age of 20 or something with one eye shut, driving on the wrong, driving on the just on the white line, trying to get home. You know, windows are down, head out the window. You know, that was my drinking. It took me into places where I shouldn't be. I fell off tables. I fell on tables. As I said, I fell asleep in front of another fire. Something to do with fires. I don't know what that's all got to do with it, but I was just attracted to fires and falling asleep in front of them. It's called blackout drinking and not knowing where I'm going, you know. I didn't really have a very good relationship with my mum, having three brothers and myself. I was the youngest of the four kids, and she used to make me, if you know me really well, I don't wear pink and I don't wear dresses, but I am teaching myself to wear a dress. I'm got get one delivered today. But she used to make them with puffy sleeves. So I had a little bit of an issue with that. I had an issue with mum. I was always trying to get her approval. Always, even at 5 years sober, I remember seeing her in the nursing home and saying, Mum, I'm 5 years sober today. Oh, yeah, but Paul's this and Michael's that and Mark's this. And you know, might have been my head, but I just know that there was an issue with my mum, which is sad, but I adored my dad. I was his little fairy blossom, he used to call me, you know. And my brothers used to call me Pet. But yeah, I was a tormented child, you know. Anyway, I ended up a 25-year career. I love that we have a career in drinking, and as I said, I fell off tables. I was a drink driver. I married a decent human being, but at the time, he was a person that I knew wasn't my parents. I think I must have loved him. I had three children to him. Today, I can look at him as a decent human being. I always attracted the wrong blokes in my life, you know, always. Um, I used a lot of people. I did a lot of geographicals with jobs and places and things. And someone mentioned the other night about knowing every pub on every corner in Melbourne, and I'd be the same, going to such and such in pub, not the street, just the name of the pub. I would know it because I went to it, you know. I was just grateful that I never got really caught into the drink driving, and I to this day I don't think I've killed anyone. But after 25 years of drinking and a failed marriage, sadly, infidelity is part of my story, and I'm not proud of that. But it is part of my story. My marriage broke up, and I had three young kids. My doctors, I drank through all my pregnancies. My doctor told me to have a glass of wine. I've already mentioned I don't know how to have a glass. You know, there's no such thing as a glass of wine when it comes to an alcoholic. Me, the alcoholic. You guys might have. I know I didn't. Once I have that thought, I'm off. I'm off. I'm just off. I used to drink out of bottles, fall down drunk. But by the time I got to um, young kids, I had mums groups, and we used to go to the pub, and we used to take our own grog to the pub. So because it was so expensive for us, and take the lollies and buy them a bag of chips or something like that. And I remember one night going to the pub, and I was driving down another major road here, and I got a red light, and this is terrible. And I turned around and I yelled at my kids, you know, for the red light. That's the sort of mother I was. They were sort of, I did the best I could with my alcoholism with my three kids. I adored them, but they were a noose around my neck for drinking, sadly. You know, that's where it takes you. Um, Go out on a Saturday night. I bet you every single one of you that goes out on a Saturday night in full flight drinking, looked in the mirror, 100, you look $100. Beautiful. You've done your hair, you've got your mascara and your lippy on. That's lipstick. You got your nice shirt or your polo jacket or whatever, you know, your nice trousers. But you come home, and it says on page 52, I think it is, that pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization of a human being. And what am I doing out at 6 o'clock in the morning? I'm a young girl in my 20s, out. Maybe I don't even get home. How many times did I wake up next to someone I didn't even know their name or where I was? Where are my keys? Where's my car? pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization is the best part of that big book that describes Naomi, Melbourne, Australia. You know, incomprehensible demoralization of a human being. I go out looking like $1,000,000 and I come home at 6 o'clock in the morning. Unacceptable behavior, you know. Anyway, as I said, my marriage broke down, and the last 6 months of my drinking was just struggling with 3 children and trying to put one foot in front of the other, trying to put food on the table, trying to trying to be a full flight alcoholic. But by the time I got into AA, I was yellow. I had alcoholic diarrhea. My hair was straggly. I was about 8 stone, which is like a stick. I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink coffee. I couldn't hold down a job. I couldn't hold friendships. I was a drink dialer at 3 a.m. in the morning. Man, I'm so sorry. You know, blackout, fall down, fall off tables, drink driver. What a mess. What a bloody mess, you know. I couldn't see anything positive about anything. I was just my lowest of my lowest. And but then I had this magic day, and it was the 29th, it was a Thursday, and it was 29th of October 1998. I think my kids were at their dad's, and I woke up, I was still sitting in the same spot as I had been the night before, with my feet on the coffee table, all the curtains drawn, and I had that moment's clarity that we talk about. Because booze had already stripped me of my dignity. It already stripped me of the career I wanted, which was either to be a police officer or a law court reporter or helping a social worker. I always wanted to help homeless people. It just stripped me of absolutely everything in my life. And I was beaten, buggered, and very bewildered at the age of 43 as a single parent with 3 kids. Anyway, I came to this morning, and one morning, it was a Thursday, as I said, and I was still sitting there, and I had my feet on the coffee table, and I had that moment. I think the curtains were drawn. It might have been about 10 o'clock in the morning. And I went, I know, I remember saying it. I remember saying it to this day, I can't do this anymore. I didn't say I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I didn't know that saying. I just knew that I couldn't do this anymore. And thank God my brother was in Alcoholics Anonymous by then. My oldest brother, Paul, he's been around, I think, 44 years. So he would have been about 10 years sober. And I rang him and I said, I think I've got a problem with booze. And he had a little giggle and he said, do you think so? You know, he'd been watching me all these years, destroying my soul. And I said, yeah, I think so. And he gave me the number of central office and I rang them. And, you know, some person picked it up and said, would you like to go to a meeting? But the funny thing they said to me was the funniest I've heard in a long time. Don't try not to drink today. I'm like, what? Okay. But how do you do that? I was a morning drinker by then. I had to stop the shakes. I had to get up, take these kids to school. You know, I had to have that morning drink. As I said, I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink coffee. I drank anything and everything, but I had this morning drink. Anyway, I got someone to pick me up that night. I did drink all that day, and someone picked me up kindly on that Thursday night and took me to a meeting just down the road here. And I remember walking down the stairs, and people were smiling at me, and they said hello, and I said hello. And I walked in, and I love this saying. It's one of my favorites, you know, take your hat and coat off your home. You know, as soon as I walked in, there was something beautiful in this room. It was called Alcoholics. But I fell in love. I've had a love affair with Alcoholics Anonymous ever since that day. I've just walked in. I heard a woman share, and she was just about to lose her son because of her drinking. And I thought, oh God, I don't want to lose mine. You know, even though they were sort of hard work and single parenting, I was just in full, you know, I was just playing, I was victim. These are beautiful children. They were 2, 3, and 5, I think, or 2, 5, and 7. Anyway, that wasn't the reason I heard this woman share. What the reason was is I just took my hat and coat off. I was home. Divine intervention, call it what you want. You know, I was talking to an old timer down here the other day. He's a mate of mine, and he's 63 years sober. And he said to me the other few weeks ago, he said, God knocks on everyone's door. And he's always knocked on my door, but this time I answered it. And I love that scenario because this time I answered the door to a God of my understanding. The Catholic God I had, he's gone. That's okay. But I still struggled with God. And I didn't sort of concentrate on God for a couple of days after I went to my first meeting. On the Friday, I went to another meeting. That's my sobriety date because that's the first day I haven't had alcohol in my system. From the 30th of October, 1998 to whatever date it is today, I haven't had the desire or the need to pick up a drink. Now, goddamn, that's a miracle. Wow. What a miracle. Far out. Like 26 years of days. Here I am, a girl trying to bring up 3 kids, trying not to drink, going out being in a state of disrepair, incomprehensible demoralization of a young girl. And here I am, went to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and I haven't had a drink since. The miracle, divine intervention, call it what you want. It's just amazing. And I fell in love, and I have a love affair with Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, I found the first few weeks, I got the beginner's kit, and I remember that weekend just reading. I rang my brother on the Sunday and I said, don't know about God. That's all I said. It's Catholic God, done a lot of damage to me from the schools, from the upbringing. That's okay. It's just my opinion. And he said, Naomi, pick your own. And that's all he said to me. And I went, oh, God, okay. Okay, that's easy. I'll pick my own. And ever since then, I've had my own higher power, which has grown out of left field. You know, it's grown out of left field. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God. It's just grown in the last 4 years, even bigger than Ben-Hur. But I've always had that connection with a higher power. Anyway, I got rid of all my grog. I sold it to my next door neighbour for about next to nothing. And I just kept one foot in front of the other. I went to that part that day when I went to that first meeting on the Friday, to the part where my girlfriends were, my mum's group. And I said to them, guys, I've just been to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting and I'm going to step back from you lot. They are still my friends today. Not one of them said to me, oh, you don't need to do that, you know, because I used to drink and dull them at 3 o'clock in the morning. My ex-husband did this, you know, all that stuff we go through. And I moved away from a lot of people, and I just put one foot in front of the other and kept going. I found a home group on the Wednesday night, which was a local meeting. And I know a lot of people say, oh, I didn't want to go to a local meeting in case someone knew me. I was quite the opposite. I went to a local meeting so I could meet someone that, hey, we could go together. How cool would that be? You know? Take your hat and coat off, your home, come right in, sit right down. But this meeting was called, it was just full of old timers. It was full of blokes. It was just mind blowing. It had ropes coming off the ceiling and it had mats on the floor. And I'm pretty sure there were probably little rats running around. I loved it. Just loved it. It was just, the smoke was everywhere. It was full of old men, full of smoke, full of rats and ropes, and God only knows, but I couldn't wait every Wednesday night to go there because those guys loved me back to life. They didn't push anything down my neck. They just loved me back to life. Keep coming back, Naomi. Keep it simple. Get a home group, get a sponsor. Do the drill. Oh, what's the drill? I remember saying to an old timer, his name was Jellic Night Jack. Guess where he got his name Jellic Night Jack from? Try to blow up a pub. He was an old codger. I loved him. And I rang him. Nickel therapy, he said. And I rang him every single day. And I remember ringing him once and I said, Jack, I don't know what's going on. I'm just this and I'm that. And he said, Naomi, it's because you don't have any drama in your life today. I was like, for the first time, I felt serene. Serenity had entered my life. The desire to drink was taken from me. I'm very lucky. Or am I? I did maybe acceptance. I don't know. I've never left these rooms, never left them. So I've never had to come back. I don't ever want to come back. If I come back, I'm dead dog. Fair income. I will be dead. Sorry, Jamie, I know. Fair income. Trying to teach Jamie how to say fair income. I know for a fact that if I pick up a journal, there's no such thing. I don't want to be complacent. I have rested on my laurels along my journey, but I always know that I come back to the grassroots of Alcoholics Anonymous. As I said, I have a love affair with it. I remember someone pointing me in the chest and they're saying, "You're meant to be. You are exactly where you're meant to be." And I went, "How do you know that?" Well, because we all are. We're all meant to be where we are right this minute, you know. Can't take that away from anybody. No matter what was going on, I just kept coming to AA. The no matter what club, no matter what. If someone has said to me, Naomi, you walk around the MCG, okay. If you walk around, I don't know, MCG, that's a big sporting thing here. With the opposition players jumper on, you will stay sober. I would have done that. I go to any lengths. I went to any lengths. As I said, I had 3 young children. I couldn't drop everything. I don't have a mum and dad. They've all passed away by now. My brothers don't babysit. I'm a single parent, can't afford a babysitter, but I just go to meetings. I take them with me, and they had their AA bags and they had their, they all had their AA bags, chuck a couple of lollies in there or whatever. And I just kept going. And I couldn't go every night, but I did nickel therapy, or get the big book out. I got the big book out 2 days ago with an issue I had with a son of mine. Page 449 of the big book on acceptance, and page 90 at the 12. Here am I, I'm quoting. Wow. And here's page 90 of the 12 by 12. Something that disturbs me. If something disturbs me, there's something wrong with me. Do I have to look at that? Yeah, of course I do. I had a mentor in Alcoholics Anonymous called Gail, and I used to always take a hostage with men to fix, my toilet or cut down a tree or something. And I remember saying to Gail, I used to ring her every day too, I need a bloke, I need a bloke, I need a bloke to fix my toilet. She said, no, you don't. You need a plumber. Oh, there's another lesson. You need a plumber. You need a tree person, a tree surgeon. You need a carpenter. You don't need a bloke for that. I had to learn how to be a human being because I had no idea. I was told to not get too hungry, too thirsty. The slogans, how important is it? First things first. I don't know about you, I can get my knickers in a knot over the simplest things even today. And I think, okay, I'll write a note. How important is it? And first things first, let's do this, then I'll do the next. And the first few days were really hard. I used to cut them down into quarters, and then I did something really weird, like I might take my kids to the park. So I changed all my thinking. I changed my timing. And first year, I was really tired. First and second year of alcohol, getting into sobriety, I was really tired. After all, I'd been out since 6 o'clock in the morning for the last 25 years. I was really tired. I was sick and tired of it. And yet here I am. I started cooking decent meals, and I just kept going. And this program has taught me just to be a human being, to be a parent, to be not such a good sister. I don't ring my brother very often. To be a friend, I do the best I can. I dabbled when I first got sober. In the first couple of weeks, I went to what do you call it, communion, and I'm sure I was in there for about an hour and a half, and I'm sure he gave me about 50 Our Fathers and 50 Hail Marys. Don't know what that was all about, but what I was doing was making amends when I didn't even know I was making amends. And I've dabbled in the steps in my program. I looked at step 4 and step 5 at 5 years sober. At 10 years sober, I started going down. I became complacent. I up my meetings, up my book, up ringing people. You know, the journey is an up and down roller coaster ride, but I've just kept going. Last year, I found myself a sponsor who's on this call, Jocelyn, and she's taken me through the steps in a written value, you know, which is chalk and cheese to what I have known. And I know that sometimes I can't, you know, contact her because you're all asleep, but I will find someone else in my program to call, which I did do the other day. You know, I had an issue with my son and it wasn't pleasant, but I paused. I'm a person to write notes. You know, I've got a note here called shh. I've got a note next to my thing. Naomi, I know what I'm doing. Love God. I've got prayers here, all on pieces of paper, which I read. That's my morning prayer. I've got the sick man's prayer, the night prayer. Dear God, I had to write a new one today just to help me through the next 48 hours or for the next 2 weeks. It's something that's come up in my sobriety. I read the daily reflections. Of course, I get the daily ponderables and I love them. I mean, that's a godsend every night when I get into bed. Before I open the computer, before I do anything, I read daily ponderables because I can forget. I try to write a gratitude list, not every day. I'm not good at it. Sometimes I struggle with it. But all I've got to do is look out the window. It's not sunny today and look at the sunshine, or just be grateful for the roof over my head. You know, all my kids have left home. My youngest just turned 30. My next one is 33, and I'm allowed to tell you guys because you don't know her, but she's pregnant. And I know Jocelyn, I haven't said anything because she's told me not to say anything. You know, like even though you don't know her, but now I just broke that rule. And my oldest son's 35 and he has 2 children. That's a struggle in itself, being a grandparent. Anyway, the COVID lockdown changed my sobriety 150%. You know, I was do a lot of meetings here. I had a home group, as I said, and I used to go to meetings, live meetings. And then the lockdown happened and I was working, and I went to one in I think he's in Canada, John Cunningham, and it was a God conscious workshop. And that just instilled in me the higher power that I had all my life, but all of a sudden he was right in my heart, like he's right there. Everything I think and do, I have my higher power with me. I didn't have that before COVID. I've got that now from this God consciousness workshop. I spent a lot of time, more time in the Northern Hemisphere than I do in the Southern Hemisphere, because I love these online meetings. I've done book group studies. I've done tradition studies. We're reading the Joe and Charlie book at the moment, The Steps We Took. If you haven't read it, read it. The promises have come true. How's this? The things that used to baffle you, like, go figure. You know, they just don't today. And if they do, you can turn around and talk about it and it comes to you. Things that baffle me, they just comes to me now because they don't. And the lessons I've learned have made me you know, it's a tough gig being a single parent of 3 kids getting sober. I'm not putting a violin on my story, but it's a tough gig bringing up 3 children. boy, I'm glad I'm not doing it today with the price of everything. But to get sober, putting one foot in front of the other and using the tools that was so freely given to me, have got me to where I am today. The pain and the agony, the sadness. I lost my mum and my dad and my dogs, and things have happened along the way. No need to pick up a drink. If I pick up a drink, I'm around a lamppost for sure, 100%. I won't come back. I know that. What else? I think doing the steps last year, I was writing the fourth step, and I remember starting to giggle because I saw everything that was wrong about me, but I was laughing because I thought, oh God, I'm just the same. It's fear, it's fear, it's fear, it's fear. And I've got a prayer for fear. Wow, where is it? One of my many. Fear of everything. Fear's my character defect. Intolerance, impatient. What about those cars on the road that don't use their blinker? That's another prayer for me too, for another day. And I try to use that at night too, because I can go right off at anyone, and it's really not their, it's my problem, not their problem. So the kids of today, my youngest daughter just got married, and this is the promises. This is the program in 100%, right? My ex-husband and I were always we were battling a long time. Sorry, it's my journey, my side of the street, my side, not his. He's remarried to a lovely woman who I really like. And that's the program in itself there. At my daughter's wedding, they were dancing, and I think him and Lindy were up dancing. He called me over and he said, come up and have a dance with us. I'll blow you away with a feather fed income. I mean, she looked beautiful. I looked okay. And my kids look gorgeous. But I tell you what, that in a nutshell was for me the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. My three kids have reaped the benefits of a sober mum. They don't have the isms of alcoholism, but they've all married the most beautiful people. Normal. They go to work. They don't have fights. They don't drink and drive. They don't come home at 6 a.m. They're just all respectable people. And, I've heard a lot of stuff in the last 4 years or 5 years of COVID, and I've got some favorite sayings, and I think I'll finish up on this because I'll start just talking absolutely rubbish. That Jellignite Jack used to always say, Alcoholics Anonymous won't shut the gates. I used to always forget that it won't shut the gates of hell, but it will open the gates of heaven. And I firmly believe that. It gives us a design for living. It's such a cliche thing to say, but we're the lucky ones. There's so many people out there, that are struggling with, in COVID that I knew, they were lonely, they were sad. And I didn't have that. I'm an isolator. I like my own company. That's the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous right there. I love my own company. I'm happy in my own skin. I aimed to get there, and I've got there. I'm happy, but I have to be careful I don't overstep that and stay really within the four walls. I'm going to make myself go to a meeting tonight. The other thing I heard was from Reggie White, and I love this, and I'll finish on this. Don't let the life that AA gave you get in the way of your AA life. We can rest on our laurels, but look what it's given us. Don't let the life that AA's given me get in the way of my AA life. I just said I'm going to a live meeting tonight. I don't want to. I want to sit on the couch and watch the Australian player beat Djokovic or whoever is playing. Sinner, I think, is playing tonight, tennis. But I'll go because that doesn't keep me sober watching the tennis. I have to go back into the fellowship and get the more medicine between the ears, fill up my cup. As I said, if I get too far away from Alcoholics Anonymous, I can get into a routine of not going. It's too hard, it's too hot, it's too cold, blah, blah, blah. Well, cooking dinner, I'm not cooking dinner. We know what happens to people that happens to, you know, drop off meetings, you drop off, you pick up a pot. That's what I was told. Give back something that's been so freely given to us. So I'm really grateful to be an alcoholic today. I love being an alcoholic because it's given me a life beyond my wildest dreams, and that's just even sitting in my own skin. So I thank Karen for asking me, kind of. It's nerve-wracking, but thank you very much for having me. It's been really nice to be here.